a very warm welcome. I am Chandrika, Content Lead and Brand Strategist at MGA Group, and I'll be your host for today. Joining me is my co-host, Mr. Avail, and together we will be guiding you through today's National Startup Day session. On behalf of MGA Group, I'm really happy to see so many founders, entrepreneurs, and future startup leaders here today. To initiate a startup is definitely exciting, right? But to take it further, it's something that the right direction guidance plays a vital role. With compliance, structure, and clarity. That's the real challenge. और इसी clarity के साथ आज का सेशन डिजाइन किया गया है. We hope this session will be helpful for you all. Before diving deep into this session, let me introduce a bit about MGA Group to you. MGA Group is a Mumbai headquartered business advisory organization working closely with startups and growing enterprises with a strong presence across major Indian cities and global offices in Oregon and Vancouver. MGA Group supports businesses in India and overseas. At the core, we help startups scale right, compliant, and future ready. So, let's begin. Should we?
Yes.
Should we begin the session?
Yes.
Thank you so much. For today, we have two very esteemed professional speakers with us, CA Manish Agarwal and CA Rasmeena A, who deal with startup problems on the ground, not just on papers. So, let's begin with our first speaker for this session, that is Rasmeena A, ma'am. And for the next segment, I would like to request my co-host, Mr. Avail, to join us here on the stage. Over to you all.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. And this is Avail. I'm the marketing manager of MGA Group. We welcome you once again and thank you to be the part of this session. So, let's call our first speaker. She is a co-founder and managing partner at DPIIT Company and brand head of Startup Recognition Mumbai. An active contributor to the MSME and startup ecosystem. She works closely with the startups on audits, taxation, and regular compliance, especially with the founder-led startups. She also plays a vital role in the women empowerment. Her perspective is extremely useful for startups in their early and growth stages. Let's welcome CA Rasmeena A.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm sure you all have gathered here because you wanted some insights about how the startup world functions and what it looks like. Is it as easy as the government says so, or it is full of complications? So I am only going to take this time is pressing. I will be only touching upon two topics which are of utmost interest for the startups, which is two types of registration. DPIIT registration. Has anyone heard of it? No? How many startup founders can you show me by raise of hand? So I would first just tell you about I belong to DPIIT Company LLP firm, and I also head the branch Mumbai for Startup Recognition. Startup Recognition basically located pan-India locations, 8 locations, and we are still expanding. So basically it is only to help the startups and SMEs. So DPIIT Startup Registration and IAC Tax Exemption. These are the two topics that I will touch upon. Okay. First is DPIIT Startup Registration, step by step. So we'll understand the complete process of obtaining a DPIIT registration and unlock the government benefits. So what is DPIIT? So basically, Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade by the government. They have made the startups to register for this registration, which is called the Startup India Recognition. Once you do that, you get certain benefits. Before that, who are eligible to go to register for DPIIT? Okay, so the entity that qualifies is incorporated either as a private limited company, an LLP, or a partnership firm. The age limit, you have to understand that once you incorporate, with improvement on the already existing process or industry that they have, or a scalable business model. And the formation is, and very important that you cannot, there can be an existing company, now it is split up or it is getting deconstructed, and now it's, another entity is incorporated, and now they want to approach Startup India for DPIIT registration, they will get it. So you cannot be formed by splitting or reconstruction of an existing business model. You have to be a new venture altogether. What are documents required and registration process for this? Documents are simple. Either your certificate of incorporation or identity agreement, the PAN of your entity, a brief write-up about what innovation or uniqueness you bring to the table, what is the problem that you are being solved, any problem that you identified and your startup is working towards solving that problem, whether your service or your product is scalable or not. Scalable means can be multi-fold, applied, only then the investors come to picture. A website helps. A website and widgets are optional, but they are really helpful. So before you speak about your business, your website and your widget speaks a lot about it. So if it is there, it is helpful. And obviously the details of directors and partners. The registration process is simple, but obviously, it needs their expertise. So you have to get into the Startup India portal. You have to create your login. You have to ensure that you apply for the Startup India recognition. That's the work. You have to fill in all the details that are needed, upload the documents, you have to submit the self-declaration, and you have to apply for the search. If all the documents are good to go, if you are meeting all the criteria that the government has set in for DPIIT, then you usually get the registration within 2 to 7 documents. Or if there is any inquiry that is there, then it is halted for some time. But as soon as the inquiry is answered to, you may either get the registration or it gets rejected. What are the key benefits of DPIIT recognition? Why do startups rush for this? There is a reason. First is a tax exemption, which we will talk about in the next topic. Eligibility under 80 IAC tax exemption. Now this is basically a very important thing, good thing, but not everyone becomes eligible for it. But if you are DPIIT registration, then you become your first step to DPIIT, then you become eligible for 80 IAC tax exemption. Second is self-certification. Self-certification under various labor and environmental laws. So there are around 9 labor laws and 3 environmental laws on which you can, self-declare and give the consent, and then you have a 5-year window where the government will not harass you for all the compliances related to those labor and environmental laws. Regarding IP benefits, so IP everyone knows, right? IPR. You have your patent, you need to trademark it. You have your faster patent, the trademark filing becomes faster, and there are chances of rebate within 3 and 5 years. So जो भी आपने expenses किया होगा, that amount 60%, 80% at times, depending upon the nature of your startup, you get the rebate from the government. Angel tax exemption, it was there, but it has been abolished from this financial year. Okay, but that's why I still made it one, because nobody else should tell you that angel tax is divided. No, it has been abolished from financial year 25-26. So you're already in that, right? Government tenders. So government tenders without prior experience. So if you are a startup and you are registered under DPIIT, then you get tenders without prior experience. So if you must have anyone who has know about government tenders, you know that you have to deposit some earnest money. You have to have certain experiences. Okay? All of this is waived off when you are a DPIIT registered startup. Okay? So you don't have to put in the earnest money. You don't have to have a prior experience. Plus the GM listing, the government e-marketplace listing. You're allowed to list yourself over there and share. Amazon is e-marketplace. So similarly, we have GM, which is a government e-marketplace, where you are eligible, you are to list your product or service over there, and sell towards the vendors which are listed with the government as the GM portal. And ecosystem access, so access to Startup India and startup benefits. So a lot of states and other independent organizations are also working a lot towards these startups, so that they give a helping hand to them in teaching, in giving them management skills or the compliances, so or maybe even the work area for the time being. So you get access to all of this once you are a DPIIT.
Next period how much?
3 years अभी कर दो. ठीक है. So DPIIT, it was all about this. So lot of benefits once you get registered in the DPIIT at the start. So once your first step is through, you are a startup, you have registered under DPIIT, you are all compliant with all the compliances. Manish will take you the compliances list is also the rate. So it is from the date of incorporation and not from the date you get the DPIIT registration. So that's the reason. At times what happens is some startups, they are doing wonderfully well, and now they come to us for DPIIT and now they want DPIIT. But the incorporation, they are already on the 8th or the 9th year of incorporation. There is no point. So you have to understand, understand the entire startup ecosystem before you even jump into one. So that you know how you can get the most benefit out of it, which the government is ready to give to you. So these are the eligibility conditions. First is again, you can see DPIIT recognized hona hi chahiye. You have to be incorporated on or after 1st April 2016. Turnover has to be less than and equal to 100 crore. This is also the condition to DPIIT, right? Engage in any innovation, development or scalable model. So all your pitch deck will help in telling the government whether you are really a scalable product or you are really solving a big problem that is there faced by the masses, or you are doing some innovation that the government or the society needs. And accounts should be audited. So compliance is very much important. Second is documents required. The DPIIT certificate, your incorporation documents, detailed business note with innovation about your scalability, and audited financials if applicable to you all, your director partner details and a CA certificate is recommended. Third is the application process again to start with your portal. You have to apply for tax exemption, upload the required documents, submit the application. DPIIT will forward the recommendation to CBD, Central Board of Direct Taxes, and then the approval is granted electronically. Not everyone gets this approval. Remember, right? Because government gives you the approval, it gives you this IAC exemption, means government is foregoing 3 years of profits. Right? 3 years of profits. Yes. So the entire profit, there will be no tax on your profit. The profit belongs to you then. If you get this IAC exemption, that's the reason the government is very carefully, analyzes the applications, and only when it is truly deservable, then only they give it. Otherwise. So timeline is usually 4 to 8 weeks after the submission, after the application is due. Then post-approval compliances, you have taken to obviously gain the exemption criteria, maintain your audit reports, file income tax return on time, and ensure consistency with the DPIIT conditions. The conditions through which you got your DPIIT registration, if they are one of the conditions not met with this exemption will automatically be taken back. So beneficial startup support and networking maintenance. So we did 2 parts till now. We did your DPIIT registration and we spoke about DPIIC. Once you have these, even if you do not have these, if you are a startup registered in India, okay, you know you are a startup. You are not registered as a startup, but you know you are a startup. Then a lot of platforms are there that can accelerate your startup journey. So these are some of them. World Trade Center WC Mumbai, okay, conducts WTC Mumbai and Cup Parade. Okay, if you become part of it, it's a global networking platform. It gives you the details of, it has every week on week, it has conferences and seminars with different trade organizations of different parts of the world, and it gives you as an MSME or a startup chance to come there, witness it firsthand how these trade organizations work, see if you fit the category, see if you are eligible for that, and then you become, and if you want, you can apply. So you can actually network. What if you are able to crack the deal over there? You'll be able to go globally with that. And Startup India, Government India. This is again a national level startup ecosystem. You have access to funds, grants, and tenders of the government, and mentor and incubator centers. Maharashtra State Innovation Society, TIE Mumbai, NASCOM 10,000 Startups, CI Startup Council. Yes. So, n number of these councils are there which help you to, they will actually once you register as a startup, but you don't know what to do. You are just fresh, you have an idea, you want to incorporate it, but you don't know how to go about it. Who will mentor you, who will guide you? That's the reason why we have a lot of incubation centers. Sometimes, they will give you the place, they give you the environment, they give you the system, they give you the place, they give you the premises, where even other startup founders are sitting there, trying to brainstorm and see how things work out. So when you get that network around, you'll be able to scale more better. You'll be able to understand is it your cup of tea or not. Or did you just come into this startup thing just because everyone else was coming to, or you really have the zeal in you. So once you become part of one of these network centers, incubation centers, your actual guidance is this one. So practical CA advice would be complete your DPIIT registration first. Strong innovation writer is very important because if you do not get your product, you may know it what it is. but you have to ensure that even others understand. So you have to pitch your product properly. You all know Shark Tank, right? It all depends on how you pitch the product and how you pitch the services. When they get the deals, right? So pitching is important. Strategy for your selection is very important. Choose 80 IAC or strategy when profits are high. So if you are early into it, you just began as a startup, you got your DPIIT and you are really eligible for 80 IAC, you got it. Then you have to choose your years carefully. You will get any 3 years out of the first 10 years. So you have to ensure that you choose it wisely and then make the best practical use of it. So I'm sure when the startups or any business founder knows who is operating the business, they understand that when will you start breaking, so you will be over your costs. Okay? And when will you actually start generating profits? After all the compliances, कितना बचेगा? बन रहा है कि नहीं बन रहा है? Scalable है या नहीं है? आगे और कितना होगा? When you know it is there, you have to wait for those years. Obviously within the 10 years, you have to wait for those years. Usually people say it was the last 3 years. Where all the compliances and costing are done with and now it starts to resolve. Key books, very important. Once you are startup registered or even if you are not DPIIT registered, DPIIT exemption, but if you are a startup, understand one thing, someday you will grow, someday you will want to scale. If you are not compliant, no investor will pitch in, no government subsidy will work for you, no loans will be given by the bank. The first thing that the bank doesn't know you, the government doesn't know you, they know the entity that you are. And how do they identify the entity to the end if they are compliant or not? With all the compliances that are in place for income tax, for GST, for NCA, for ROC, whatever. So if you are not compliant for government, you are not a best fit for the funds to be given to you. And proper valuation, income tax issues by proper valuation. So right now, whatever valuation you do for the company, income tax is gone. But whatever valuation you do for the company, it has to be from a proper value. Any XYZ person does valuation for you, then the first investor comes in and asks you what is this valuation based on? Why do you think it is? And if you're not able to answer, your deal goes down the drain right from that point. So you should know why your value is this much. For that, the valuation has to be done from registered value to be able to guide you and tell you this is why your valuation is. And then you do a series of rounds of funding, either to government or not, in guide you. So I think this is my last slide. But what I can say is regarding compliances, if you are all compliant, then as I said, then as a startup or as a, see every startup is an MSME. In every MSME is a startup, right? You have to register vice versa. So you have to decide if you want to grow, whether you want to give up your hold or control, which is equity, or you want to still keep your equity with you and just give up your, give interest and keep the hold on it. And accordingly, the investor will come in. If you want to give up your equity, the investor comes in, takes some control or stake and puts in the money. If you don't want to give up your stake to anyone, then the other two ways are loans and subsidies. Okay, I think Maliki will talk further about it. But if you have any questions about all of this, what I spoke about, please speak to us.
Turnover should be maximum 100.
Less than equal to 100 crores.
Then if turnover is 500 crore, then tax benefit will not be.
Then the entire benefit will not be. What is a startup? Startup is something that you just start, right? Any other questions?
In first year only we have to decide which 3 years are to be taken.
Not necessarily. See, which 3 years means to be taken, that will be decided only after you get the API. Okay, so first year will only go in finding out what you want to do, how you want to do, which entity you want to register at, what are the compliances that will come into the picture, how, what